The story begins with Perrin, the son of a wealthy businessman in Thailand, sitting on a flight to Hong Kong. Frustrated by his failing businesses and endless family problems, Perrin decides to escape to Hong Kong with no clear plans for his return. Overwhelmed by stress, Perrin asks the flight attendant for vodka or whiskey to help him cope. Upon arriving in Hong Kong, Perrin heads straight to an old friend's place, pouring his heart out about his troubles. He explains that his luxury car showroom business is in shambles, and none of his carefully planned ventures have succeeded. At that moment, Perrin admits he needs a break from it all. However, deep down, this trip is about more than just a getaway, though he chooses not to reveal the real reason that evening. Instead, he wants to refresh first. With a heavy voice, Perrin asks his friend to pour him some rice wine before delving into the burdens of his life. He ends up drinking excessively and becomes heavily intoxicated. Eventually, Perrin stumbles into the hotel lobby, rambling incoherently in front of Iris, the receptionist. Being a receptionist, it is Iris's job to assist guests, but handling a drunken guest like Perrin is far from easy. To make matters worse, the only available room is the presidential suite, the largest and most expensive option. But that's not a problem for someone like Perrin. As his luggage is scattered all over the lobby, Mrs. Julie, the hotel manager, steps in and reprimands Iris, asking whose belongings are cluttering the space. Iris explains the situation, and Mrs. Julie instructs her to return the guest's belongings to his room. Iris, a Filipino working in Hong Kong, comes from a broken and impoverished family, which forced her to leave home and earn a living abroad. Alone in a foreign country, Iris is fortunate to have a manager, Mrs. Julie, who is also from the Philippines. This shared background helps Iris adapt to her new life. When Iris arrives at Perrin's room, her task extends beyond just delivering his belongings. She also has to help Perrin into his room. Unable to lift him onto the bed due to her small body, Iris leaves him on the floor, providing him with a pillow and blanket to ensure he sleeps comfortably. The next morning, Perrin confronts Iris, asking who owns the items left in his room. Iris quickly claims they belong to her. Suspicious, Perrin accuses her of sneaking into his room the night before. Just as Iris begins to explain, Perrin's phone rings, cutting off their conversation. As time passes, a routine develops. Whenever Perrin returns drunk from a party, Iris is the one to care for him. She not only helps him, but also frequently brings him fruits, meals, and anything else he needs during his stay at the hotel. After days of this repetitive cycle, one day takes an unexpected turn. Iris is suddenly approached by another hotel guest, who informs her that a drunken man has climbed to the rooftop and is flapping his arms like a bird. At that moment, Iris immediately understood who the guest was referring to and rushed to the rooftop. Upon arriving, Iris panicked as she saw Perrin, seemingly about to do the unthinkable. Without wasting any time, Iris took action to prevent anything tragic from happening. However, her good intentions led to Perrin injuring his leg. Furious, Perrin explained that he had no intention of jumping off the roof. He merely wanted to fly, as he believed he was now a bird. He was also annoyed at Iris for constantly mispronouncing his name. Fortunately, after a doctor's examination, it was confirmed that Perrin only suffered a minor injury that would heal within 3 to 5 days. To apologize, Iris brought him some Thai dishes. After preparing everything, she politely excused herself, saying she needed to get back to work. However, Perrin insisted that Iris stay and join him for dinner. Initially hesitant, feeling it was inappropriate to accept such an offer from a hotel guest, Iris eventually agreed after Perrin persisted. As a result, the two ended up sharing dinner together. During their meal, Perrin suddenly invited Iris to go out with him the next afternoon. He wanted to explore Hong Kong, but didn't know where to go. Unfortunately, Iris had to decline, explaining that she would be working overtime both day and night for the entire week to cover for a coworker who had returned to their hometown. Perrin, puzzled, asked if she wasn't exhausted. With enthusiasm, Iris explained her perspective. Working overtime meant earning more money, and money, in her view, could buy happiness. Perrin firmly disagreed, stating that money could never buy happiness. This difference in opinion sparked a debate between the two, but eventually, Perrin, growing tired, decided to drop the argument and continue eating instead. After dinner, Mrs. Julie called Iris into her office. She informed Iris that she must accompany Perrin wherever he wanted to go the next day. Apparently, Mrs. Julie had received a phone call from Perrin, who threatened to sue Iris for causing his injury and for consistently mispronouncing his name. To avoid any legal trouble with a wealthy guest like Perrin, Mrs. Julie decided to remove Iris's afternoon shift so she could fulfill Perrin's request. The next day, Iris took Perrin to a Thai souvenir shop. She thought he might miss items from his homeland, so she brought him there. However, none of the items caught Perrin's attention enough to buy. Their afternoon outing ended with lunch at Iris's favorite Chinese food restaurant. During their meal, Perrin asked Iris to simply call him Perrin without any titles or formalities, as she had struggled with pronouncing his full name correctly. Iris agreed, and this made their interactions much more relaxed. Soon after, their conversations flowed naturally, and they felt a newfound sense of ease with each other. The next morning, just as the sun had risen, Perrin suddenly appeared in front of Iris's boarding house. It turned out that he had learned about her address through a friend. At that moment, Iris was shocked to see Perrin at her doorstep. She quickly freshened up to make herself presentable. When Perrin saw her, he couldn't believe that this was how she looked after waking up. He was also surprised by how small her living space was, smaller than the bathroom in his hotel suite. Feeling insulted by his remark, Iris snapped, demanding to know why he was there. Perrin casually replied that he was there because he was hungry. To fulfill Perrin's request, Iris took him to the market and treated him to her favorite Indian dish. They ate together in front of Iris's boarding house. It was then that Perrin revealed the real reason he had come to see her. He wanted her to accompany him to Tayo village because he was searching for his mother. A friend of his had some leads on her whereabouts, but couldn't take Perrin there personally. Perrin then began to share his story, explaining that his mother wasn't exactly missing, but had left home a month ago. He came to Hong Kong in the hope of finding her. Iris agreed to help, but suddenly said something that left Perrin deep in thought. Perhaps his mother didn't want to be found. Perrin couldn't fully understand what Iris meant, but her words left him silent, lost in contemplation. That same day, Perrin and Iris traveled to Tai O, a quiet fishing village on the outskirts of Hong Kong. Following the directions provided by his friend, Perrin finally found his mother. She was cooking when he spotted her. After a month of searching, Perrin was reunited with his mother. Though the reunion was slightly awkward, his mother greeted him warmly. Perrin, however, was puzzled. Why had she chosen to live in such a rundown house, leaving behind their luxurious home in Thailand? With a gentle yet firm tone, Perrin's mother explained her decision. She shared that wealth had never brought her happiness. Her voice trembled with emotion as she revealed her longing for a simpler, more meaningful life. Hearing his mother's words, tears welled up in Perrin's eyes. But before he could fully process everything she had said, his mother's new husband invited them to share a meal together. During the meal, Perrin finally began to understand his mother's perspective. Her smiles, her laughter, her genuine happiness. These were things Perrin had never witnessed back in their home in Thailand. In fact, he realized he had never seen her this content in his entire life. His mother was truly happy with the choices she had made and the life she now lived. Perrin finally understood her words. No amount of money could ever buy happiness. He also came to a firm decision that he would no longer ask his mother to return to Thailand, nor would he take away the happiness she had found here. After learning about his mother's situation, Perrin spent the evening watching the sunset with Iris. At that moment, Perrin admitted that the view felt rather ordinary to him, as he often enjoyed similar sights during the day or night back in Thailand. However, this was his first time truly appreciating a sunset. Hearing this, Iris explained that a day is made up of 24 hours, 23 hours of daytime and nighttime, and just 1 hour for sunrise and sunset. That 1 hour, she said, is the most beautiful time of the day. Life is the same. Sometimes, it's the smallest changes, the briefest moments, that reveal life's true meaning. Perrin smiled, as if agreeing with what Iris had just said. Shortly after, they began planning other places to visit together, deciding that Peng Chau would be their next destination. Upon arriving, the two spent their time enjoying each other's company, watching turtles, feeling the sea breeze, and playfully pretending to be robots like those in Disneyland. They also visited a nearby Thai souvenir shop, where Perrin's attention was caught by silkworm crisps, a traditional Thai snack. He bought a lot of them for them to enjoy by the beach. Not only did Perrin bring his favorite snack, but Iris also shared her favorite food from the Philippines. She brought adobo, a steamed bun-like dish that she had made herself for Perrin. At that moment, Perrin immediately loved it and jokingly said he wanted to eat it every day. However, when Perrin asked Iris to try the silkworm crisps, she refused, feeling disgusted at the sight of them. Displeased with her refusal, Perrin playfully insisted until she finally tried one. This moment brought them closer together. As their bond grew, they began learning and understanding phrases in each other's native languages. They truly enjoyed their time together in Pung Chau. Eventually, Perrin surprised Iris with an invitation to live and stay there together. Iris was stunned, hardly believing what she had just heard. She admitted that she had dreamed of living in Pung Chau for the past 3 years, and this offer felt like a dream come true. However, she worried about her meager salary as a hotel attendant, which wouldn't be enough to support her living there. Perrin reassured her that money was not an issue for him. He offered to cover 60% of their living expenses and lend her the rest. But their plan wasn't just about enjoying life. They decided to start a business together. They would open a cafe featuring Iris's homemade adobo as the signature dish and Thai tea made from Perrin's family recipe. Perrin even declared he would leave behind all his wealth and start a simpler life in Pung Chau. Despite her initial doubts, Iris finally agreed, excited to begin this new chapter with Perrin. Before heading back, they visited a nearby temple and performed a Chao Sing ritual to predict their future. The results indicated good business prospects, promising careers, mysterious love, but poor health. Despite this, Perrin dismissed the predictions as mere entertainment and didn't take them seriously. However, on their way back, Iris suddenly fell ill with a high fever. Perrin immediately brought her home and cared for her with genuine affection. Once she recovered, Iris went to Mrs. Julie's office to resign from her job. Mrs. Julie was saddened by the news, having always regarded Iris as her own child. Nonetheless, she encouraged Iris to seize this new opportunity. In the end, Iris promised to visit Mrs. Julie whenever she returned to the city. Not long after, Perrin and Iris successfully opened a cafe called Philic, which means happiness. One day, Iris played a cassette tape she had received from Perrin's mother's husband. He had once shared their love story with a smile, and the cassette was filled with melancholic Hong Kong songs. Now that he was truly happy, he no longer needed those tapes. At one moment, Iris announced that she would sing and dance to a song from the cassette in front of Perrin. As she performed, Perrin was captivated. Her laughter, her smile, her voice, everything about Iris taught him the meaning of peace and what love truly is. In the fast-paced whirlwind of life, Iris became a pause, a precious moment of calm in Perrin's world, something he deeply cherished. Together, they prepared their signature dishes for the cafe. It was revealed that Iris's skill in making adobo was unmatched, while Perrin worked to perfect his family's traditional Thai tea recipe, something he hadn't attempted in years. After some time working, their creations finally came together flawlessly. Perrin was confident that their cafe, Philic, would be a huge success. However, Iris seemed less certain. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, hiding emotions she couldn't quite express: fear, doubt, or maybe both. Later, Iris mentioned that she needed to go to the city the next day to collect her medical test results. Perrin agreed, assuring her he would prepare everything for the cafe's grand opening while she was away. Shortly after, when Iris returned, she surprised Perrin with a pair of lovebirds as a gift. Delighted, Perrin named them Svisti and Mabuhay. Svisti means good health in Thai, while Mabuhay means long life in Filipino. Together, the names symbolized a wish for longevity. Although Iris smiled, her eyes betrayed her hidden emotions. Unable to hold it in any longer, she hugged Perrin tightly. Confused, Perrin assumed she was nervous about the cafe's opening and suggested delaying it. However, Iris firmly refused. She couldn't wait any longer for this moment. Before the opening, Perrin decided it was time to confess his feelings. He told Iris that their relationship had gone far beyond mere friendship and expressed his love for her. Iris accepted his confession, and they shared a kiss. Some time later, the cafe, Philip, finally opened, and to their surprise, it became an instant hit. Customers came in droves, some dining in, others taking their orders to go. True to its name, the cafe brought happiness, not only to its patrons but also to Iris and Perrin. The two were overjoyed, fully embracing their new life and cherishing every moment of running the business together. Outside of work, Iris taught Perrin how to ride a bicycle. Despite constant falls, Perrin refused to give up, getting back up each time to try again. To Iris, Perrin's determination symbolized his resilience, not only in learning to ride, but in facing life's challenges. No matter how many times he had fallen in life, Perrin realized that falling in love with Iris was a serendipitous joy, a happiness unlike any other. One evening, as they relaxed by the beach, Iris began singing again. She sang a song from the cassette, and one of the lyrics mentioned a flower called the Queen of the Night. Listening intently, Perrin later surprised Iris with the flower as a gift. Overwhelmed with joy, Iris expressed her delight. It was her first time seeing the flower in real life. As she held the flower, Iris reflected on her life. For the first time, she felt truly happy. Her dreams with Perrin had come true. They had their own cafe, a simple life in Peng Chau, and precious time together. Most importantly, they were genuinely happy with the choices they had made, building a life filled with love, peace, and joy. In the midst of their happiness, Iris asked Perrin for permission to return to her hometown in the Philippines for a short while. She planned to leave on the 10th of the following week and return on the 10th of the next month. Iris explained that she needed to resolve some personal matters with her family. Perrin was taken aback by the news and insisted on accompanying her, worried about her safety. However, Iris declined, saying she wanted to go alone and asked Perrin to take care of Philip in her absence. She also promised to meet him at the harbor when she returned. As the days passed, the stock of adobo at the cafe began to run out, but Iris didn't return as promised. Over a month had passed, and there was still no news from her. Desperate for answers, Perrin reached out to Mrs. Julie for help, but she hadn't heard anything from Iris either. Perrin admitted that Iris had blocked his number and left only a voicemail before cutting off contact. In the message, Iris simply told him not to look for her, not to call, and not to wait. She asked him to find happiness, even if it meant without her, and to cherish the love they once had. Without any leads, Perrin remembered something Iris had once said about her mother. Maybe she didn't want to be found. That thought weighed heavily on his heart, leaving him in a state of deep confusion and sorrow. During this time, Perrin's life was no longer the same. Philip had to close down because he couldn't afford the rent anymore. Each day, he spent his time listening to the voicemail Iris had left for him. Her words echoed in his mind, urging him to move on and find happiness. Despite this, Perrin's tears had dried up, replaced by an aching emptiness in his chest. Perrin missed Iris deeply, feeling abandoned and clueless about what had happened to her. One day, amidst his despair, Perrin heard the chirping of the lovebirds Iris had given him. However, only Mabuhay's voice remained. Svasti lay lifeless in a box nearby. Overwhelmed by grief, Perrin broke down in tears. In his anguish, he interpreted Svasti's death as a sign from the universe, perhaps even a message from God, that Iris was no longer alive. Despite this devastating thought, his heart refused to fully accept it. Clinging to hope, Perrin brought Mabuhay to the harbor, where he waited, believing Iris might still return. As he stood there, a stranger approached him, a woman who introduced herself as Thea. Perrin, lost in his thoughts and emotions, paid her no attention and left the harbor without responding her. On another day, Perrin found himself listening to the voicemails Iris had left him once again. He knew it caused him pain, but it was the only way he could still hear her voice, a sound he had longed for ever since she left. As part of his daily routine, Perrin continued to wait for Iris at the harbor. And once more, Thea appeared to greet him. This time, Perrin didn't walk away like before. Instead, he sat down, ready to hear who Thea was and why she kept seeking him out. Thea introduced herself as Iris's younger sister. She explained that Iris had asked her to meet Perrin. Despite years of no contact due to family issues, Iris had reached out to Thea recently. As they talked, Perrin asked the question he had been dreading. Where was Iris now? Thea's voice trembled as she revealed the truth. Iris had been battling anaphylaxis for months. She returned to the Philippines to seek treatment, but it was already too late. Her condition had worsened, and Iris chose not to pursue further treatment. Instead, she wanted to spend her remaining time with Thea. At that moment, Thea explained that Iris made this choice not because she didn't love Perrin, but because she loved him deeply. She wanted Perrin to remember her as someone strong, cheerful, and always positive. Before she passed, Iris shared with Thea how Perrin was the best thing that had ever happened to her. Thea even mentioned how she had never seen Iris smile as brightly as when she talked about her time with Perrin. Knowing the truth, Perrin was stunned. Silence enveloped him as the weight of Thea's words sank in. Thea then handed him a piece of paper with her phone number written on it, telling him to reach out when he felt ready. She suggested they could visit Iris's grave together in a few days, if he wished. Returning home, Perrin felt utterly empty. To make things worse, he discovered that Mabuhay, the lovebird Iris had gifted him, was no longer in its cage. With Svesthi already gone, and now Mabuhay too, Perrin felt an unbearable sorrow. Everything he had cherished seemed to vanish: Svesthi, Mabuhay, his mother, and now Iris. Life, which had once felt so perfect, now felt hollow. Perrin reflected on how happiness and beauty never seemed to last, just like a fleeting sunrise or sunset, like the one they had enjoyed together that day. The next morning, Perrin decided to start anew. He shaved his hair and beard, dressed neatly, and retrieved the phone he had previously broken. It was a quiet but profound act of moving forward. In the final moments of the story, Perrin spoke a heartfelt farewell. He acknowledged how Iris's departure had taught him the true meaning of happiness and the power of acceptance. Though her absence left a void, her love and the lessons she imparted gave him the strength to find peace and move forward with his life. Moral lesson from the story: life is like getting drunk on a rooftop thinking you're a bird. Sometimes you fall, sometimes you fly. In the end, happiness isn't about luxury cars or hotel suites. It's about finding someone who'll drag you off rooftops and still share their last piece of silkworm crisps.